Welcome back to Speak and Serve. Question today is, do you freeze on the spot because your mind goes blank? Today, I've got a specialist who's going to help you with just that, because it often happens for her when speaking on stage. Welcome, Suzi Payton, to the discussion today. How are you today, Susie?
Hi, Chris. Yeah, I'm really good. I'm very pleased to be here and can't wait to have a chat.
Well, it is second time round because of my badness last time round. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I forgot to press record, and Susie was so magnanimous in terms of her understanding. But Susie, tell us, what is it you do and how are you going to help people today with this recording?
Hi, yes, I'm Suzi Payton. I'm a neurodiversity speaker and I help workplaces become more inclusive for their neurodivergent employees, including their autistic and ADHD employees. But there's more to neurodivergence than that. And I'm also a coach, confidence and visibility coach for neurodivergent and or creative business owners who want to feel more confident, more present when they're speaking in their businesses, and without the overwhelm, without the self-doubt and the inner critic getting in the way.
Fantastic. And tell me, what made you do this particular venture, Susie, in terms of helping people embrace their neurodivergency and speaking on the spot improv?
So yeah, I grew up not knowing that I was neurodivergent, and about 15 years ago I was diagnosed ADHD and autistic, and it made a lot of sense to some of my real strengths, but also a lot of my struggles as well. So what brought me here to this point? Well, I was a teacher for 17 years and I loved teaching children. I just didn't like the workplaces, the toxic environment. So and I was burning out over and over again because it just didn't suit my neurodivergent brain. And then the pandemic came and I thought, right, this is my chance to do my own thing, work for myself and create a business that really plays to my strengths. So I've been doing comedy improv, which is making scenes up on the spot, and I've been doing stand-up, which is what more people know about, for 15 or so years. And I love helping people, teaching, so I became a coach, and that was far more manageable for me, and I love seeing the transformations. And then I kind of recently have put it all together so that I combine the comedy with the speaking as well as the coaching. So I coach on mindset, on inner critic, on speaking your truth authentically and being okay with discomfort, and you know, really embracing the present moment rather than worrying, oh, what did I say wrong? Oh, they hated it. Oh, they looked at their watch. They must be bored, you know. Quietening all of that so that you can really enjoy your time on the stage, in a networking event. You know, all those times when you have to speak up about your business and yourself, why not do it with ease rather than, oh, I sound silly.
Well, there's a lot in that. I'm curious, for you, when you had that autistic ADHD diagnosis, what did that actually show you? You are, I'm not going to say worried about or feeling, because everybody's diagnosis, I guess, has a different signal for them. But what did it show you that you needed to be comfortable with from your own diagnosis, Susie?
Yeah, so pre-diagnosis, and before I'd kind of clocked onto it about 5 years before I got the diagnosis. But before that, I was very chaotic. I was in a lot of debt. I was depressed. I was very up. I was very down. I was very good at, you know, my job, teaching, but behind the scenes, you know, trying to maintain a household with all of these pressures of, oh, it's got to be tidy. And I speak for myself, not every other ADHD and autistic person, but it is quite common that we struggle with kind of getting organised getting things into place, starting tasks, finishing tasks. Us ADHDers are very good at starting tasks. Sometimes it's hard to, not sometimes, it can be hard to follow through. So all of that, and in school I massively underachieved, even though I was really good at some things. So I was really good at sports, naturally gifted at sports. I was good at English, and then I was terrible at maths. I now know I have a learning disability with maths called dyscalculia, which makes it really hard to understand mathematical concepts. But I didn't know that at the time, so I thought I'm thick, I'm stupid, and my self-esteem was battered, no confidence. I would never speak up. So, of course, I'm making up for all of those years that I didn't speak up now on stages, podcasts, so it's a very different story now. And understanding my neurotype and my differences has been life-changing, and for some people it's life-saving as well, because the suicide rates amongst neurodivergent people are high, because they think they're flawed, they think there's something wrong with them, but there's nothing wrong with them. They're kind of trying to fit into a world that's not designed for them, and actually the world that as we know it is not designed for a lot of people. It's only designed for a very small minority of robot type people. So yeah, that's why I'm here doing what I do, helping other neurodivergent people.
Well, I guarantee for anybody listening, we will talk about some of Susie's techniques. But I'm just curious, first of all, Susie. I have clients that say speaking on stage is just completely fear personified. But you're out there doing improv and stand-up, and yet you have an ability to lose your thought in certain spaces. It seems very incongruent that you're going to stand on stage, put yourself in the spotlight and think, I have no idea what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, when you're kind of performing improv, the ideas come from the audience and you kind of go with it with those golden rules which apply to life. Listen, accept and commit, regardless. So if you follow those rules, it works. But when I do my keynotes, for example, I don't kind of rehearse it word for word. I have to have room for flexibility there. And sometimes my mind does just go blank mid-sentence as well. I can be in flow, saying sometimes profound stuff, and then suddenly it's gone, and I'm just like, what happened? And I literally say that on stage. I say, look, this is a true ADHD moment. I've lost my thought. I can't even remember what I was talking about. And we all have a chuckle, but what they do is they empathise and they say, oh, you were talking about this. I'm like, thank you very much. And then I carry on. But that's taken years and years of inner work to release the shame, because that's brave to kind of say that sort of thing and admit on stage that your memory has failed you, which, for me as a ADHDer, my working memory is very, very poor, very challenged. So what do? Do you hide away, or do you embrace it and say, look, this is what it is?
Well, I love that, the fact that you're wanting to rid yourself of the shame, because that is a really big emotion that can debilitate people. And I hear myself thinking about Brené Brown talking about vulnerability and courage being part of the same aspect of people's feelings, because you can't really be vulnerable without also being courageous. Tell me more about the construct of your keynotes then. How do you design it so that if you are losing your way, you've maybe got a prompt or a visual clue to put you back on track?
Yeah, so I have my slides, and they're my visual, they're kind of my map for where I'm going. Otherwise I'd be there for 2 hours, not 1 hour, going off on all sorts of tangents, which I do anyway. And I just go with that. I don't think, oh no, I've gone on a tangent. I'm like, no, this is me. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing and loving it, and this is why people are loving it too. So I have my slides. I'll go off on a tangent, then I'll be like, come back to earth, look at my slide. Okay. and moving on. And half the time I say what's on future slides, so then I just skip them later on. But yeah, it does give me a bit of grounding though. I did a show in the Brighton Fringe, which was similar to my Keynote, but probably a bit more of the theatrical comedy stuff. And I didn't have slides then, but I just had a few bullet points so I never really, unless it's an improv show where there is absolutely no guidance, no script, I always have a few notes as a little backup. But actually saying that, I did a 20-minute gig the other day and I thought, no, I'm not going to have any notes. I can do this. And I did. And when I looked afterwards, I'd covered everything. So it's that trust as well that I'm always building too.
And when you're practicing for that keynote, what level of rehearsal and preparation are you going through to make sure that in the moment you are fully drilled into what you're thinking about you're going to deliver?
Yeah, so I don't practice, but I've done the Keynote quite a few times now, and there will come a point. So being ADHD and autistic, it's like I like to know what I'm doing, do it over and over again, and then it's like I can't do that anymore. So I will have to bring different elements. And actually, the last time I did a Keynote, I thought I need to add some different things in here. I've got to that point, and that's okay, you know. That's why I love improv as opposed to stand-up. I mean, I do both, because stand-up is very scripted, doesn't have to be, but generally very scripted. This is what I'm going to say. Hopefully they laugh at this point, and off I go. Yeah, I'm always changing my stand-up and adding improv in, because I just can't do that, you know, that can't be forced into that script. Yeah.
I'd imagine when you're delivering that keynote or you're doing some training, there'll be people in the audience that have a huge affinity with you because they're just like you, but they haven't been brave enough. Tell me about some times when somebody's walked up to you afterwards and opened themselves up to say, do you know what, Susie, you've just allowed me to be comfortable with my own inner critic. What happened there for you?
Yeah, that's happened a lot, and I do now at the start of every event say, look, for some of you this might be quite triggering, and I've had people kind of crying, but in sessions, because everything I've been saying, it's like I've been talking about them, and they didn't realise, you know, there's a lot of awareness now, but some people still don't realise that their challenges have been down to ADHD, and they've been kind of going to the doctor, and the doctor's like, oh, you're anxious, here, have some anti-anxiety medication, off you go. So sometimes for the first time in people's lives they've been seen, they feel seen, so it can be very emotional. You know, at conferences I have people talking to me afterwards, and one conference I did, as a result of that, her daughter got assessed and diagnosed as autistic, and then she came to me as a client. She was in college, so it's powerful stuff, and it's real stuff, and this is real people's lives, and it's amazing. Well,
sounds like people should be booking you for more conferences if those are the breakthroughs that happen.
Yes.
Now, you know me, I've got a little personal agenda this year to try to be a little bit more humorous and a little bit more stand-up. How do we become funny when we think we're not, Susie?
I think first of all, addressing that belief, you know, if you've been told you're not funny, or you think, but I think if you've you'll know you're funny. If you want to do a bit of stand-up, somewhere deep inside of you, you'll know you're funny. I believe. So yeah, it's again like having your own business. It's when you do stand-up, it will highlight a lot of your inner beliefs that you didn't even know were there. So it's addressing those and taking the pressure off. It's easy for me to say. Like when I first started out, there was a lot of pressure, and it was like, it was all about the laughter. They've got to laugh. But then I would I'd do a gig and they'd laugh. I'd do exactly the same set and people didn't laugh, and that was quite disorientating. It's like, huh? But you have to go through that. So I think really understand your reasons for wanting to do it, know how it's going to kind of enhance your speaking, your presenting, and work with that inner critic that's going to say, don't do it, they're not going to laugh, you're going to make a fool of yourself. That's what it's going to say. Of course it is, because it doesn't want you to change or do something different. So it's like, no, I want to do this. Thank you for your advice. We're going to do this and we're going to make it work. And if it doesn't, because if the joke doesn't land, it's about staying in the moment and recovering and carrying on. You can acknowledge it if you feel that you want to. It's quite exposing, but people really don't know what's going inside your mind, even though you feel like it.
Well, it's that fear and flight thing, isn't it? And I'm determined to do it, and I will do it this year at some point. What about the people, though, that sort of stand at the sidelines and say, who do you think you are? You're not funny. What gives you the right? And then the inner critic starts to hear, listen, and believe that. What are your recommendations for sort of putting the proverbial 2 fingers up to those people that are naysaying you so that you still own your space on the stage?
Yeah, so, I mean, are you talking literally like hecklers at the side of the stage going...
Well, we could talk about that, but before you... I'm saying I'd like to do stand-up, and there's a few people saying, are you serious? You're not even funny, Chris. Why? So first we'll talk to that part, about the people that are almost wanting you not to do it because they think you can't.
That's really interesting, and if people are saying that, it's so obvious to me that they're projecting their fears onto you, because they're probably thinking, or unconsciously thinking, I could never do that. So they're either projecting their fears onto you, they're probably trying to save you from embarrassment, but actually they're not helping you at all, because they're trying to control what you're doing by saying, don't do that. So I would just really realise that that's all about them and nothing about you. People are strange, aren't they? Strange things.
Well, that's what makes us human, isn't it? But let's talk then about being on the stage and then somebody starts lobbing a little heckling statement at you. How do you deal with that, Susie? I hadn't even thought about that one yet, so help me with that one.
Yeah, I mean, we trained for this. It's like so I did a lot of stand-up courses, and within those courses was improv, because improv is amazing at helping you react or embrace any heckling you get. I haven't been heckled badly, and the thing is, I do talk to the audience and I ask them questions, so I do encourage that interaction. But then you will get the occasional one that tries to take it a bit far, and they think it's their time, don't they? They're not on stage, but they think this is my time to be funny. So it's about what we learn at stand-up school was people shout something out like, you're rubbish, and you go, yes, and you're sitting in the audience, so who's the winner here? Something like that. So you say yes and, which is an improv term, and then you make something of it. It doesn't have to be the wittiest thing. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't have to be Jimmy Carr style, for his comebacks. But as long as you say something, you're kind of putting them in their place. But I never want to be cruel. I don't want to embarrass someone. If they were taking it too far, then it would be like, look, let's get them out of here, sort of thing. But you would hope the compere would do their job and put them in their place for you. But it does happen. I'm just fortunate it hasn't really happened to me. But I have had to tell people to be quiet, when people drink more. I do an event called AuDHD, The Experience in Brighton. And sometimes, because I am interacting with them, they get a bit carried away, and then I'm I go into teacher mode in the kindest way possible, and I'm like, okay, that's enough, thank you, whatever your name is, and then try and keep it light-hearted. But yeah, just yes, and it's a game changer.
And is there a particular tone of voice or a look that you give them? I know my auntie used to have that particular tone of voice. She was a school teacher, and I knew as soon as she sort of said, Christopher, that was it. It was like, lock in, I am seriously in trouble here. What's the Suzi Payton tonality and expression that you give to the heckler?
Well, it's really hard, because it's a real fine balance, because I don't want to go too much into teacher mode and make everyone feel like, oh, she's turned into a teacher now. And then a lot of us neurodivergent people have got a lot of school-based trauma, so you don't want to be coming in and this is so it's trying to stay light-hearted, whilst making a point, like, shut up now, It's the thing is, you can talk about it all day, but you have to get out there, practice it, feel it, experience it. It's a craft, but it doesn't have to be as scary as people think. That's why I think all stand-ups should be doing improv as well. It's less scary, because you're like, oh yeah, what's up with you then? Do you want some attention? Sometimes you say that, and then everyone's laughed and they shut up again.
Well, I'm going to try both. I definitely do a little bit of improv, I guess, with some of my Toastmaster meetings where you're given a topic. On your stand-up, how do you create your ideation of your routine? Does it come in the shower, on a walk, in a moment of driving? Where do your thoughts come from?
Yeah, all of those. Usually when I'm in motion without a pen or phone to hand, which is really annoying, because the ideas come and I'm like, that's great, but I'm driving along, and then by the time I've got to my destination, it's completely gone. So when I can, I just note them down. I rarely sit down and write and think, right, now I'm doing my writing, because then my brain just says, no, we're not. And then, so yeah, just making notes wherever I can and adding new bits in, trying to add new bits in each time.
And have you got a particular theme that you're following, perhaps on your own ADHD autism or other aspects of your beliefs? What's your genre normally that you're following for your stand-up?
So it's observational, but it is centred around ADHD and autism and my lived experience, and kind of storytelling is my thing.
And what are your thoughts on how the improv experience is then transferable to perhaps a business or a professional setting?
So, yeah, I mean, kind of in a podcast interview now, knowing that if I do lose my train of thought, I can just be like, hold on, where are we? Like we've just talked about. When I'm on stage at a conference, for example, and somebody asks a question that I wasn't really prepared for, because I say to people, ask me anything. So it's about not being frozen, or if I am frozen, then just taking some deep breaths, feeling my feet on the ground, and not rushing, because I'm notorious for rushing. I've always thought I've just got to get the words out, but now I'm able to take a step back, and that's through the improv, and being my true authentic self rather than a scripted, polished professional, whatever that means, is part of the improv journey, and knowing that I'm okay as I am.
Fair enough. Well, I'm looking forward to being more improv and seeing how that is transferable for me.
Yeah.
Speak to us now about the speaker or the leader that is having to communicate a message and get it wrong from a neurodiverse perspective. What are some of the errors or pitfalls that speakers use or offer to people who have some of your neurodiverse aspects of learning that they need to really think about to be able to allow clarity and simplicity to land with the audience?
Yeah, I think use of slides is massive, as we know, as a speaker in general. But it can really enhance, like massively help with retention as well, remembering that a lot of our memories aren't great. So if you've got a really good image that kind of helps with what your messaging is. So slides that are not too cluttered, not too wordy, which is kind of general advice anyway, but it really does make a difference. And then things like that can really enhance the experience could be like careful, clever use of music within your presentation. That can really help. What else? I think language, just being really clear, which as a speaker you would want to be anyway. But I think I spoke about this another time. Kind of use of idioms can be confusing, frustrating, maybe. Like this isn't a speaking example, but years ago when I was in the workplace, I was having a really good conversation with somebody, a difficult conversation, and he said to me, "So don't be afraid to be a squeaky wheel." And I was just like completely like off track. Like then I'm thinking, what on earth is he talking about? So then I've got the option: do I ask him and risk making myself look silly, and that shame coming up? Do I just kind of nod along and go ha ha ha, like I've done throughout my life? I think at that point I did, but it really bothered me. So sometimes people assume that people understand what that means. I found out later it means just don't be afraid to keep on at me or something, you know? So use of language, if you're going to use an idiom, like lots of us do know what they mean. If you were to say, oh, gosh, it's raining cats and dogs, you know, we're adults, we're not going to be looking outside for cats and dogs. But just being mindful, I think, of some of the language can be really helpful.
Because I guess from a neurodiverse perspective, they literally have a picture of cats and dogs falling out of the sky because that's the way they take the language in its purest form.
Yeah, for some. I mean, I personally think in pictures, but there are people also who are neurodivergent and not, that can't, is it aphantasia? Or is that something else? Where some people can't form a picture in their mind at all, which for me is like, wow, and that's why some expressions make me feel sick, like keep your eyes peeled, because that, you know, that's just gross to me. So I'm very visual, but not everyone is. But the literal understanding is a part of autism. So yeah, it's just being mindful. When I used to say things like that when I was teaching, but I would always back it up with the real meaning if I did accidentally say it. So
it's so interesting.
It's just
things like devil's in the detail, or throwing the baby out with the bath water. I can see now that the image there that I've created, the devil's in the detail, they're not focusing on that. They're suddenly focusing on what the devil is and how that is now cemented into somebody's thought process. Fascinating. Yeah.
And then if you've got ADHD as well, you're not going to be focusing on that. You might be thinking of like a film you watched about the devil. You might be thinking all sorts of things. So you've essentially lost that person for a few seconds or minutes.
And then when they come back to wherever they are in the room, they've probably lost the context of the delivery, and it will take quite a long time for them to get back.
Yeah.
What about pacing then from a neurodiverse perspective? How does that need to be? Fast, slow, pausing? What's going to work there from a delivery perspective?
I think it's going to have to be a mixture of all of those things, because for some people with ADHD, they find other people who are talking at a normal pace too slow. But you can't then be like, that speaker's got to speed up their voice. You know, that's why when people are watching videos and they can speed it up, that can be really helpful. But of course we can't do that to humans. So I think it's doing a mixture of all of those things, some pauses, some animated bits, all the kind of speaker stuff really. Because everyone's different, every human is different, and every neurodivergent person is different. So I think it's about doing all of those things.
Give us a clue to the work that you do. Let's just say I'm wanting to work on my improv and I'm not able to join an improv class. What kind of things would you be tasking me to try to do from one session to the next to help me become more comfortable with improv?
So a client I've got at the moment, his main goal is to listen and to remain present, whether that's in everyday conversations, whether that's in the workplace, whether that's, speaking, because the mind can get a bit ahead of itself and then you're kind of not in the present moment. So so then we do some improv exercises together, one-to-one, with the intention of remaining present and in the moment. And of course, you've got the intention, we're playing the games, we're creating these crazy scenes. There was a dinosaur went missing the other day and ate the dinosaur park keeper. It was all very fun. But what he noticed is when we're in flow, there is no room for self-doubt, there's no room for second-guessing yourself, because we're in the moment and present. So it's a skill that the more you do it, the more you learn to be in the moment. And of course, we do go out of the moment and think, oh, what did I say? Oh, what am I getting for dinner? But it's like, hold on, present moment. That's all you have to say and you're back there. So it's like a skill, and the improv really super boosts that skill, which is, the present moment is all we ever have anyway. So let's make the most of it.
Well, I'm going to practice some of those. Where I'm thinking now is sometimes people label others in a disparaging way, perhaps because they say that they are ADHD or autistic or have neurodivergency. Talk to me about how you would like to blast that myth and just say to people, well, what would you say to somebody that has perhaps some prejudicial thoughts about ADHD or somebody with autism or any other learning impairment?
So I would call it a neurodifference rather than an impairment. But what I would say is, sometimes people say, oh, everybody's got ADHD these days. It's all over TikTok. That's quite a common slur. And, it's coming from a place of ignorance. And the thing is, it hasn't just appeared. It's just that there's more awareness now and people are realising why their brain works differently and why it really excels sometimes under pressure. I mean, it's a well-known fact that many paramedics are ADHD, because that massive rush of dopamine helps people focus and calm in such, challenging circumstances. So it's about really recognising the strengths as well, and not everyone's going to have the same strengths. I wouldn't be a paramedic. That makes all that blood. No, but there's more awareness, and people, of course, if you've been struggling your whole life with rejection sensitivity, which is a big deal, where it's a lot of us can experience criticism and rejection really painfully, like physically painfully. If you've never been able to concentrate in school and you've thought you're rubbish, but actually you're very bright, of course you're going to look and think, wow, this could be me. So it's always been there. It runs in families, it's genetic, and it's just that people now know more about it. So very dismissive and very invalidating when people say that, and it's, you know, it's quite heartbreaking as well to hear that. So people need to be a bit more mindful of what they're saying.
Well, the leader, I guess, that can call that type of behaviour or language out is also going to be a leader that is worth following. Talk to me about the comfort zone, when people perhaps stay comfortable, or they're just not willing, or they can't face the aspect of feeling shameful about not wanting to have their voice. How do you push without pushing them too far, knowing what you've managed to experience of your own ability to tackle your shame? How do you push them to go for it without pushing them too far, Susie?
Yeah, I think it's meeting people where they're at and recognising that there will be past trauma triggers, and not pushing. We are a highly sensitive bunch of people, so, and who have been, if you think, talking about the school-based stuff, all of that pressure, you need an answer now, you know, I've asked you a question, what's the answer? And a lot of us need time to kind of process questions and not just, can't just, you know, answer a question on the spot. So it's being very gentle, meeting people where they're at, and helping people to take small steps at their own pace. And then if you've got that combination, people will flourish if they have indeed the desire to want to grow.
I'm thinking of a networking meeting that I go to, and two different networking meetings. One facilitator clearly says, by the way, and Susie, you'll be up next. And then another facilitator thinks it's quite interesting just to call out a name, put them on the spot, and make them talk. Of the two, well, I'm not going to say which one I like. How would you recommend somebody facilitate an online or a networking meeting, or even a boardroom discussion, where people are going to be encouraged to put their point of view across, that would be good for all different types of learning styles?
Yeah, so I think that's really good when they say, because I go to a networking where they say, right, it's you and then Susie, you're up next, because it just gives you that moment of preparation that's so important, and you're prepared. And if you're kind of in a boardroom or a meeting room, then it's really important to be mindful that that person might not have anything to say, or they might formulate it and it might come later. So always giving people the option, like, Susie, did you want to add anything? Yes, thanks, or no, thanks. But what's even better, which is a really easy thing to do, is allow a process for people to contribute later on, once they've had time to digest it and process it. Because the thing is, a lot of situations are set up for the loudest voice in the room, and you're dismissing and missing out on, a wealth of knowledge and information just because they haven't spoken up. So things like agendas in advance should be standard practice. I know they are with some people, but not everyone, so that people can have a think about what they're going to, and then they might think, oh yeah, I want to say this at this point, rather than get to the meeting, here's your agenda, So small things like that cost nothing can make a huge difference.
Well, I challenged him, the facilitator who just puts people on the spot, and his summary statement was, well, I want everybody to always be on edge because I want them to be interested, because I know that some people are playing about on their phones or doing things while not actually on the spot. And I thought, well, maybe that's what he's doing, and therefore he's wanting people to be active because he's always thinking he's distracted. He still hasn't changed the facilitation style, but perhaps I'll send him anonymously our discussion, Susie, and he can be self-educated on an expert's opinion.
Yeah, and also that's the thing is, he can't control, nor should he really be spending his energy trying to control if people are sitting on their phones or not. You know, that's, if he just does what he's supposed to do, people will be interested in him. And, you know, sometimes people do need to have a quick look at their phone, you know. But I think that's quite a fearful way of doing it. I've got to be on edge, ready for my... Yeah, I don't like that.
I agree. I think it's being comfortable and allowing people to be prepared. And as you've said, if the networking is that good, they'll be engaged and not distracted. And if the distraction is causing them to want to play on their phones, either they've got something else on their minds, or you need to up the intention of the networking to make it non-distractable. That's not a really word, is it? Non-distractable. I'm going to embrace it anyway.
Yeah, sounds good. But also, kind of from an ADHD perspective, like, that is a hallmark of ADHD, getting easily distracted by other things. So it might be that, you know, my phone is turned over so that I've minimised that distraction. But if it was turned up this way and it flashed, I might be very compelled to have a quick look. Obviously, I wouldn't sit there reading messages while I'm on a phone to you, on a call to you. But also, it's about just being aware that people might look at their phone and it's not the end of the world.
Thinking about your own work, and obviously the website for Susie is just going to be below here now, SuziPayton.com. Lots of resources and ways to engage with Susie there. What's your favourite methodology for working with a company or a business from your perspective, Susie?
So what do you mean?
Well, if you had a blank piece of paper to say, right, Susie, please work with us in a way that's going to help us improve our neurodiversity understanding or even our speaking prowess, what would be your favourite client or favourite way of working with a company?
So yeah, the companies that get in touch with me always have similar values of, they want something fun, a bit different, but they want to be educated as well. So I always have that initial call with them and I ask them what their aims are, you know, what do they want to get from this talk, and make sure it's in alignment. And then it's finding, then being a bit more tailored. So it's like, this is my keynote, but if you've got situations that keep occurring within your organisation, let me know and I'll weave them in, you know, and it will be so seamless that it won't be like, oh, they're talking about us, this happens. It will be like, oh, okay, this happens to everyone, which probably does anyway. So really listening and meeting them where they're at, and if they have any particular challenges, to try and address them. And offering, like, my services, whether that's training or speaking, getting to know their organisation as well, you know, so we can really target them, and you know, and doing a call in a month's time as a follow-up to see, you know, it wasn't just an all singing, all dancing fun time, but what has happened, you know, what's changed for your organisation. An organisation I did a talk for last week, I did one last year, and they told me that since my talk last year, 2 employees have been assessed and diagnosed with ADHD, and they could be even more supported in the workplace. So it's multifaceted in that way.
Well, what a brilliant breakthrough. Just on the subject of AI, Susie, how can we use AI to enable us to be more broad thinking about any neurodiverse issues by prompting it in a way that's going to help me with my own blind spots of what I can't hear and feel because I am not, I don't think, neurodivergent, ADHD, ADD? What things could I do with my AI to help me overcome anything that I'm missing with my speaking or delivery or training?
I think just keeping it really simple and saying, look, I'm going to be delivering this. A lot of the audience will be ADHD. Do you have any thoughts, any considerations that I should take into account. And yeah, just being really specific, like I'm a speaker, this is what I'm talking about, should I be aware of anything? And it's pretty good. It will give you some things that you may not have. It might even give me, I really want to try it now to see if it gives me anything that I hadn't even thought of, because we're all learning all the time, myself included. Another way of using AI as a neurodivergent person who has issues with memory and executive functioning, which is that part of the brain that's responsible for initiating tasks, breaking things down. So if I'm writing a blog post, I say, can you give me a structure? This is my blog post, what I want to talk about. Can you give me a structure? And then it's got the structure there. So it's taken that really challenging part of the brain that finds structure difficult, and it's created it for me, and then I write away, and then I'm flowing. So it can really help in those sorts of ways as well, in the workplace, in the home,
And that 3-step framework you talked right at the start, I think the final part of that was commit. Just explain that framework again. I think, was it listen, something, commit?
Yeah, so the 3 golden rules of improv are: listen to what your scene partner is saying. So if I said to you, oh, Doreen, your cat's eating your birthday cake, you have to listen. Okay, I'm Doreen, and accept, yep, I'm Doreen, I've got a cat, he's eating the cake, and then you commit to being Doreen. That could be you in your voice now. It could be an accent. It's improv. You can do what you like. But so it's about really listening, which is, of course, a skill that transfers to everything. Accepting the current reality. So you get to a conference, you put your memory stick in, if you still use those things, and the tech's gone. Okay. Do we have a freak out? Maybe, which is okay. Do we accept, okay, we have no tech. We've got to make it work anyway. So that's kind of accepting the current moment. And then the commitment. Yep, I'm here to do my thing, and I will commit. I know, and this is where the self-trust comes in. I know my stuff. I can do it without my slides, and it might be different, and that's okay. So those concepts really transfer everywhere.
I do like that. It's particularly the acceptance part of, well, I am where I am. It is what it is. There's nothing I can do about this apart from accept where I'm at. And then from that, commit to how am I going to make this as good as it can be, bearing in mind the difficulties that I face myself, as opposed to making it shrink me and debilitate me because I'm feeling so unaccepting of the situation.
Yeah.
Couple of final questions, and we're going to close with your 3 sort of habits on how to lead a long and healthy life. Final one, a chance for you to really go for it. What is the thing that most aggravates you when you see other people speak from your ADHD autistic perspective, Susie, that you just like to have a bit of a rant about now?
So thinking back to all the kind of trainings and things, I think it's kind of lack of energy, kind of a monotone voice will have me probably like wanting to walk out. Loads of words on a slide, big no. It's annoying on so many levels. Yeah, and just boring, With neurodivergent people they have an interest-based nervous system. So, I mean, even if you're talking about, I don't know, what's boring to me, spreadsheets. If you can find a way to make it interesting, and use, no humour, people being kind of overly concerned with how they're coming across, that's all a big no-no for me.
What about the animation on the slides, and when it comes in with a whoosh on the noise? Good or bad habit there to put on slides?
For me personally, depends. If it's a quick noise, then okay. What I find very overwhelming and overstimulating is moving images that stay moving on the screen, and use of colour as well is a big thing. Just being mindful of some colour contrasts can be too much as well. So
any particular types of colour contrasts that you'd like to signpost that would be not good?
So and again it can be different for a lot of people, but white background with black writing is quite harsh on my eyes. Just soften it up with a mild yellow or something,
Interesting. Yeah. Before we talk about your 3 habits that you'd like to leave people to think about, what have I missed, Susie, that you would just like to say to people? Chris hasn't talked about this, but from your expert opinion, you must make sure that you walk forward with this in your toolkit of delivery of speaking.
I think we've covered quite a lot. I think it's really that acceptance of the present moment, not taking yourself too seriously, because that just adds all of the pressure, and then it does kind of freeze you. So just to, I guess the thing is, I'm a speaker and I'm available, and with my coaching I help people using deep coaching techniques and improv, and it's not stand up, it's not to be funny, it's to be relaxed and in the present moment and be okay with whatever comes to you, and that is possible.
Well, I've seen some of your work and I've heard some of the experiences, and yes, if you have any aspect of wanting to make your workplace more inclusive, then please go to that website I talked about there, and obviously it's all in the show notes here as well. For me, Susie, I think the 3 big takeaways I'm going to apply would be, first of all, looking at my language for those idioms and cliches, things that I think I understand that actually would be of no use to the listener. I'm going to try to banish that. The listen, accept, commit framework, I really like that, to think, do you know what, actually no, I'm okay, just calm down, accept where I'm at, and then recommit to a strategy. And thirdly, I'm going to spend more time thinking about the audience that I'm talking to, and make sure that I'm not creating something here that is not inclusive to all the people that could be in the seats. I'm really thinking intentionally, have I captured all the needs here? And if not, what can I do? So those would be my 3 takeaways. So thank you very much for allowing my own brain to broaden its horizon with my future delivery. So thank you.
Yeah, great.
What are your 3 habits? I always close every discussion with 3 habits here that will enable us to hopefully live a long, healthy, active life. Susie, what would be your 3 takeaways?
So I would say get outside, and that can be, in nature would be great. It depends where you live, but getting outside, getting that fresh air and getting that morning light is so key to kind of your circadian rhythm and your overall health and well-being. I go swimming at the outdoor pool in the seafront down here in Brighton, and it's 19 degrees, so it's not really cold, but it is a bit chilly, but it's not cold, sea cold, and that's how I get my healthy hit of dopamine as well. So there are lots of unhealthy ways that I used to get dopamine through alcohol, food, lots of food. So just flipping that around and getting your dopamine, and everyone needs dopamine, especially us AuDHDers, but everyone. So get outside is what I said, didn't I? That leads me on to the other one, ditch the alcohol. Alcohol is a drug, you don't need it. So I'm saying this as somebody that was a binge drinker from the age of 13 up until about 2 years ago. So, massive change in myself, in my lifestyle, and knowing that I don't need that drink on a Friday has been the most amazing thing, and that my energy is different. It's an amazing thing. So I would really encourage anyone that's sober curious to get hold of those books. I can recommend them. I can't remember what they're called. There's website, there's podcasts, because being on the other side is mind-blowingly amazing. Not that I'm preaching, I can still be around alcohol, but you don't need it, even though you think you do. And what's the other one? Long and happy life. Oh yeah, more joy. Do what brings you joy. For me, that's performing, that's comedy, that's being a fool, that's helping people. So you have to have joy in your life. In fact, I would go as far as to say that is the purpose of life. Because if you're having joy in your life, then you're happier and you're having better relationships. And so make joy your priority.
Well, here's to going down to Brighton and being outside in the pool. Do you do that all year round, or is it only a summer thing that you do that?
Yeah, no, all year round.
What?
So I've been doing it throughout the winter as well. It's lovely.
Well, it gives you joy and you're outside, and I'm sure that you probably have a nice drink of water afterwards. On the subject of alcohol and thinking about messaging, I was triggered the other day about the fact that alcohol awareness the website is called Drink Aware, and immediately we associated the word drink with alcohol, and I challenged somebody to say surely it should be alcohol aware, because now we're suggesting that everything we drink is already associated with alcohol. So if anybody's listening from Drink Aware, is the website congruent to what we're actually trying to achieve, which is alcohol awareness and not drink awareness? There you go, that's my rant.
Yeah, good one.
Suzi Payton, I really want to thank you for being compassionate with me last time round when I didn't press record. We're all human, but most importantly today, the takeaways that I talked about. And yes, let's get outside. Let's try to be more aware of our habits, particularly those that might be harmful to you, and find the joy. Suzi Payton, thank you so much today.
Thank you. It's been lovely.